Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Revati Mandana from at Walmart Labs. It is my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Diane Mills.
Sure.
She is a Senior Vice President, Human Resources at Walmart Global E-commerce. Diane is an accomplished business and global human resources leader with a strong portfolio of strategic change and innovation successes across multiple businesses. Today, Diane is talking to us about imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome, which is more common among high-achieving women who believe that they do not deserve appreciation and they are not intelligent enough for their success. Diane will talk about the various factors that lead to this syndrome and offer suggestions on how to effectively deal with them. Put your hands together for Diane Mills.
Thank you, guys. It's such a pleasure to be here in Bangalore. I was last here in 2006, and you all have made a few changes, most impressively with your traffic. Okay, maybe we better go with this mic. So I was just saying that I haven't been to Bangalore, even though I've traveled a lot to India in the past. I haven't actually been to Bangalore since 2006. And the traffic and the number of buildings and the number of cranes, it's very impressive. So I'm so excited to be back with you all here today. I want to start by telling you just a little bit about Walmart, because I know we don't have a store presence here in India, but we do have a store presence in a lot of places. We are in 28 countries with 11,500 stores. And we operate e-commerce sites in 10 countries. And wait for this, we have 2.2 million employees around the world. That's a lot of HR. And our tagline is that we help people save money so they can live better. And that, for me, is just a remarkable purpose that causes me to love working for Walmart. The way we do that is by starting with the customer and intimately understanding their needs and how we can help them, and then trying to operate in an excellent way to deliver. Now that I've told you a little bit about me, I'm going to ask you to be brave and answer a couple of questions with a raise of your hand. How many people, let me get the right slide here. There's the traffic slide. Have you ever felt undeserving of praise or the recognition you were getting, despite the fact that you know you're a high achiever? If you felt that way, raise your hand. Wow. Do you ever have the feeling that it's just a matter of time until you're found out? Me too. Me too. And as you can see, this is really prevalent, and I think it's particularly prevalent with women. And we're going to talk a little bit about why that might be in a few minutes. We look in the mirror, and we don't really see who others might see. We don't give ourselves credit. And this is classic imposter syndrome. It's characterized by not being able to internalize your success, not really believing what other people tell you about your success, and chalking up your achievements to just good luck or fortune. There's lots of books that have been written about it, and one of my favorite books is this one. It's really about overcoming imposter syndrome. And in the book, Elizabeth Heron talks about 5 symptoms. You attribute everything to luck. You feel like you don't deserve your success, that there's someone more capable, more accomplished. You don't think you're worthy of the praise you're getting. And you feel like everything you have to do has to be perfect. And then lastly, you doubt your abilities, particularly when you're going to have to test them in a new forum, in a new job, in a new situation. I think women are particularly susceptible to this syndrome. And I know there are a lot of men here with us today, but I suspect that this syndrome was named by a man. So why do we have it? I don't know the answer, but I have a lot of speculation. In the United States of America, we still have the challenge that women are paid approximately 70 cents on the dollar to the man doing the same job with the same circumstances. I've noticed in my profession, when I interview women and hire them to the company, they're less likely to really negotiate their salary or their benefits than men. I have to spend a lot of time with the men folks because they want to negotiate every aspect. Women sometimes will just take, the offer and never ask a question. They seem like they're just thankful that they're getting the job. Can you all relate to that? Yes. Okay, we have to stop it. I don't know if we think it's that it's not ladylike. Perhaps society has told us that we're not really allowed to push back. Maybe men are conditioned to be more aggressive in terms of standing up for themselves. I don't really know. I really speculate that it's a little bit of everything. Obviously, culture plays a big role in that in India too. And I've been a student of Indian culture. I probably traveled here in 1997 or 98. And I couldn't possibly be old enough to have been working then, so I was probably, very young, right? But I think a lot of things define who you are as a woman here. The family you're born into, your religion, how fair or wheatish your skin is. Like, look at me. Your eligibility as a bride, the college you've gone to. There's such a growing expectation that you all study harder, get high scores on tests, get into the right colleges, win scholarships, land the best job, and then, find the perfect husband and raise beautiful, disciplined, brilliant children. I think it's a testament to your strength that you just don't break down under it all. Even before you get started, it seems overwhelming to me. And I imagine that you carry all of that pressure into the workplace. And after you've done all of that hard work, you imagine that with one mistake, it could all come falling down. If imposter syndrome is the only thing we're manifesting as the result of this pressure, then we're probably doing pretty good. Jokes aside, I want to spend my time with you all today really focusing on how can we turn imposter syndrome into an advantage. How can we use it to really help ourselves get to the places that we need and want to go in our careers? Look at her. Doesn't she look comfortable and happy? That's the goal. Now I'm going to walk you through some of the things that I want you guys to remember about how you can replace that feeling which is negative around imposter syndrome with the purpose. And here's the first thing I want you to remember. It's an advantage. It's based on, if you have imposter syndrome, I don't care whether you're a woman or a man, it means you have very strong metacognition, which is the processes that we all use to evaluate and regulate our own knowledge. And it's in a situation. Do I have the knowledge I need to progress through the situation in a successful way? I can also tell you that slackers and blusterers and braggarts have very low metacognition. So it is a genuine positive if you have high metacognition. So celebrate the fact that you have this gauge, a really sensitive gauge. So every time that you feel this creeping doubt coming in, I want you to do 4 things, and this is the first one. I want you to reach out to trusted advisors. Now, since we have so many people here today, in a moment I'm going to give you an assignment to talk to a neighbor about for just a couple of minutes. There's a woman who used to work for Merrill Lynch. Her name is Sally Krawcheck. Many of you may have heard of her. And she came up with this concept, I think other people have as well, about having a personal board of directors, a group of 4 or 5 people in your life that you use as your personal board to advise you. And I'm going to tell you the qualifications that I think they should have. 1, they should be really strong assessors of people and situations. They should have integrity and objectivity. You should respect them for their work contributions, and you need to make sure that they're willing to invest time in you. Those are the 4 things. I've found that during my career, many times I've fallen victim to imposter syndrome when I was being stretched the most. And likely it was when I had been promoted or changed jobs or moved to another company. My personal board of directors became a source of stability for me. And they really helped me continue to see myself in the new situation and give me really good advice in an objective way. And many times I was completely amazed at how much better my board members could see me and my capabilities, especially when my vision was clouded by that imposter. So I want you guys to take just a minute, pick a neighbor near you, and I want you just to brainstorm for a minute who in your life could you pick as your first member of your board of directors. And I want you to tell your neighbor why you would pick that person. I'm going to get you guys to mix it up and talk to each other for a little bit. So just take 2 minutes, think about who you would pick. And again, I'll tell you the 4 characteristics. They're strong assessors of people and situations. They have great integrity. You respect them for what they've accomplished in their career, and they're willing to invest in you. So just chat for a moment about who you would pick. Okay, so I want you all to finish that list by Monday morning. I want you to have your 4 or 5 board of director meetings next week, within the next couple of weeks, with the people that you really think could be helpful to you in this way. And I can't wait. I'm going to come back here next year, and I'm going to find out if you did that. Yes.
So we were discussing if the board of directors should be from our current company and work with us in our teams.
Yeah.
Then they can see us.
Yeah, the question is, should your board of directors be in your current company? I would encourage you to really diversify. My current board of directors, I have people that have worked that I worked with 20 years ago that are still on my board of directors. So I would encourage you to have people that are outside the company, perhaps somebody inside the company. I have a couple of women on my board of directors that have very different jobs from me, and I find out that that's really helpful because they see things differently. Okay, here's your second assignment. We really need to practice accepting and internalizing external validation, especially from our board of directors. Look back to find other examples of the positives that others see. There are two questions that I ask people when I interview them. One is, what's the consistent positive feedback that you've gotten over your career? And secondly, why do you think that people believe that about you? This is really important. These two questions you should use on yourself, and particularly when you receive positive feedback, because our reaction is, that can't be true. This person is telling me what I want to hear. But I want you to learn to look back at what are the facts over time, and that's why that first question, what have you consistently been told? Because not everybody can be wrong. So here's your second assignment. We're not going to take as long because we'll run out of time. But based on your little conversation that you just had with your neighbor, I want you to look at him or her, take turns doing this, and give them a compliment based on your interaction before. And here's the hard part. I want you to say, "Thank you, I believe you," and then switch. And it can be about appearance, it can be about anything. Okay. How did that feel? That felt pretty great, right? That felt pretty great. And it only feels great if you accept it. So you've got to start to practice accepting it. Here's my third remedy to imposter syndrome. If you can pull up and focus on your purpose or your dream, it will take precedence over your fear. Taking the time to establish why you're doing what you're doing will help you focus beyond your fears. If you're anchored to a strong sense of purpose and a strong, piece of that vision of your longer term plan, you will be more excited about moving forward despite your fear. Your inward imposter will serve to keep you focused on the big picture. So you're substituting that fear factor for really being positive about the fact that you're moving forward, and you can use your fear to your advantage. Here's the fourth one. Build your skills. When that little voice of doubt creeps in, shut her up by doubling down on learning something you don't know. And you can ask yourself, what's scaring me? What is it that if I knew or if I had experienced would change the way I feel about this? And then turn your self-doubt into action. One of the most formative stages of my career was when I moved from being an HR business partner to being the head of one of the largest divisions, L&OD support. It was the consumer division of Bank of America, and I was their learning and org development executive, and I had never done that job before. And there were many people that were my peers on that team that had PhDs in org development and org design, and I had started my career as a banker and I had been in marketing, but I didn't have the pedigree in HR that they did. And my boss was really a very demanding man. He's on my board of directors now. And I was often kind of paralyzed by my doubt about myself, and I would observe my partners and peers and how, I couldn't help but compare myself to them and what they were able to do. And it took me much longer to get things done because I had to sort of study and figure out the basics and get the knowledge and the theories behind some of the OD work before I could actually do the work. So it was during that period of time that I really learned the power of skill building. And what I used to do, it was when my children were quite young, I would get up at 4 in the morning and I would read as much as I could around org design and org development. I would really pour through some of the latest theories. I would try to think about it in the context of the problems and the work that I was trying to solve for my clients. And within a few weeks, I started to notice that I was more able to contribute in the conversations. And I was actually bringing some of the new ideas to the table because I was working a little bit harder to increase my knowledge set. And others started to seek me out. So remember, the presence of imposter syndrome symptoms are a good sign to remind you you're moving in the right direction, you're stretching and growing, so use that as an opportunity to learn. Oops, sorry. So here are the 4. Reach out to trusted advisors. Really accept and internalize the external validation, especially from that personal board of directors, which you will have thought about and appointed by next week. Give your purpose precedence over your fear and build your skills. Now I want to make another connection for you based on my own experience. You will significantly reduce the negative impact of this syndrome if you focus on other people. For most of my career, I believe that I suffered from a fairly severe lack of confidence. It manifested in many ways, but it was particularly acute when I was in situations like this one. When I was asked to do presentations, I was often very, very nervous and I couldn't think straight. My mind was swimming with all sorts of terrible thoughts about how I was coming across. Was I making sense? Did anybody care about what I was talking about? Was I turning red? Was I sounding foolish? I was terrified and I would dread every single occasion where I had to get up in front of people. And we've all heard that advice that public speakers are given about imagining people in their undergarments, right? I tried that. It did not work. In fact, it was terrifying. So at some point, I read an article where there was a woman executive who said that she had learned to really focus completely on the needs of the audience and what she wanted them to walk away with. And she said it made all the difference in how she presented and, most importantly, how she felt about doing it. I started to practice that. And when I focused completely on benefiting the audience, I didn't have time to obsess about myself or my appearance or my inadequacies, and I felt like I became a little bit more authentic and effective. So you guys can give me feedback. I don't know. Maybe it hasn't completely worked. But I think through practice, being maniacally focused on my audience and how they would receive and use my content really did help me. So I think the best tip of all is to focus on your benefactors. Focus your work on who will benefit from it. The customer, your client, your audience. Think about what they need. Think about what you want to have happen. And you will automatically, I promise, you will automatically feel more relaxed. You'll be more focused. You'll be more authentic. And your strengths and your values will convey more easily. There will be a very little room left for you to feel that lack of confidence or have that little nagging voice come in and tell you that you're not worth it and you're not good. Another thing I want to leave particularly the women in the room with, and this has been so valuable to me, is a notion that I learned from a colleague, which is lift as you climb. As the name suggests, sharing your learnings with others, particularly other women, by mentoring them, serving on their board of directors, and helping them develop healthy perceptions of themselves will really help you heal that tendency to have imposter syndrome. If you suffer from the symptoms of imposters, I hope you will leave today encouraged that it can be transformed into a really good thing. You have a gauge that you can use to help you reach your destiny and your full purpose. And when the symptoms manifest, I hope you will spring to that symptoms call, and it can be a tool to reach your full potential. I want to leave you with a few thoughts from some of our greatest thinkers. The first one is, real knowledge is to know the extent of one's ignorance. Confucius. Ignorance more frequently begets confidence than does knowledge. Charles Darwin. And finally, in the words of the very wise Taylor Swift, haters are gonna hate, fakers are gonna fake. I'm just gonna shake, shake, shake it off. Thank you so much.
Hello, ladies. I'm sure you had a good session. Diane, I very well correlate with what you said. Today is my first piece that I did on the podium, and I was petrified to come over on the stage. There was a mentor who helped me to get onto the stage and speak. I hope I did well, and I hope she did well too. Let us know if you have any questions. She's open to answer your questions.
I would be happy to answer any questions.
We all discussed with our neighbors the assignment. So I wanted to know, what do most people tell positive about you and why they say so?
She's using my interview questions on me. Well, I think the thing that I've heard consistently over time is that I bring my heart to my work. And my husband, the way he puts that is, he says, you take a perfectly good job and you ruin it so that it takes twice as long. But I do get very involved in my work. I care greatly about the work I do, and I feel like the work that we do as HR professionals is really important, and we can help match up, the business objectives for the business and the ultimate benefit to the customer by getting the people piece lined up. So I love what I do. I love helping people reach their full potential. The other thing that I've been told is that I am a good developer of other people, and so I'm really proud of that. One of the most rewarding aspects of my career is helping the people on my team and the people that work for Walmart e-commerce achieve their full potential. Thank you for that question.
So one of the things you said was, when somebody gives you a compliment, you say, yes, I believe you, right? So say one of my male colleagues give me that compliment and I reply with this, he might take it as whether I'm arrogant. So what are some other good ways of accepting that compliment?
You could just say thank you. Thank you. That, I really wanted you all to practice that, though, because that's what needs to happen in your head. Because sometimes we don't take that compliment. I know what I do sometimes is I think the person's just being nice, or, we have a term in the U.S. called brown-nosing. That person's just brown-nosing. They don't really mean it. And so I think it's so important that we start to look at what's the evidence that this person is right and I'm wrong. So you can just say thank you.
Hi. I'm not sure if it's the right question for you, but you said that women generally don't negotiate, which we know it's quite true. So can you tell us the art of negotiation? Before every interview and every offer, we do read about it and frame the questions in our mind, but it's very difficult to actually come across and do it. So you being the HR head, maybe you could teach us how to go about it.
Well, We would probably have to have another, length of time to do that. So maybe I can get a slot next year and we'll do that on negotiation. Now, here's what I would recommend. I would recommend that you do your research. So find out what the market looks like. It's easier now than it's ever been to do that because you may have friends in similar fields. You can get your hands on more information. So that's one piece, to really take an external look at the value of your job. And then the other thing is to ask questions. Ask a lot of questions. That's one of the things I observe, is that people don't ask questions about the details in an offer. A lot of women, and I know I'm making a generalization, but I do find that women are less likely to push hard on some of the details, and some of the men just wear me out. Because they'll ask a lot of questions and they want a lot of details. And so that would be the other thing. Ask questions. And then here's the most important piece, and then we'll get into the negotiation part. Think about what you need. Think about your lifestyle. Think about what it is that you really need to derive at this point in your career, and look for some things to say, what would some of the trade-offs be in this offer that I could make? Maybe I could take fewer dollars up front on the bonus and ask for a little bit more on my base salary, but come in with that mindset of what would tailor this offer to work better for my life. And it can't hurt to ask. In fact, a lot of employers will really expect you to ask. And so those are the things that I would say: have good information before you come into that, and get into the details and ask questions about how things work. And then think about, how well does this fit with my personal situation? And that gives you the basis for that negotiation, to say, could we change the base? Could we move some of the pieces around?
Diane, if you don't mind, can I just add a little bit of a perspective to this question?
Yes.
I've been working in HR in India,
Mm-hmm.
and in my experience, and the audience can say if this is right or wrong, I think in order to negotiate, one of the important things is understanding the financials or having a financial acumen. Today, when I talk to many of the women in my organization or outside, they say doing my taxes is my husband's job or my father's job. When I talk to employees in my organization to say, here's an employee stock purchase plan that the company is offering, and here is why it is beneficial, while most men will want to listen to it, women say, it's too complex, I don't even want to go there, right?
Yes.
So I think in order to negotiate, it's important to invest some time in understanding the financial stuff, and then there are some starting realities that start showing up based on which you want to negotiate. So that's the first step, I think.
That's excellent. That's really excellent advice. Yes.
Does imposter syndrome eventually go away? Or does it stay?
I wish I had an answer to that. I really think we can moderate it. We can put it in its place. My thesis is that it's a good thing, because it indicates that you're always in check about making that next step to getting better, and you're really taking a probably a little bit more negative view of how far your capabilities will take you. I think for high achievers, it's really hard to make it go away. And again, that's back to my point about metacognition. I think that's part of how high achievers are built and made and how they think. And I really think that's probably why they are able to achieve at such a high level, because they're very demanding of themselves. So my advice would be not to focus so much on making it go away, but again, putting it to your good advantage.
So I was wanting to actually continue where she left off, the negotiation part, right? So I had a relative back in, I think, 2004, 2005 time frame.
Can you hold the mic a little?
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So I have a relative who back in, I think, 2004 was on the lookout for a job in LA. He got an offer. It was not great. So he just went back on our advice to go and then negotiate. And it ended up being a disaster. They just took it back.
Right.
So after that, when I faced a similar situation, I kind of did not push on the negotiation. And I mean, well, base pay is all. So of course, this was like, it was the start of my career. So it took a big hit, especially when you get bonus and everything is dependent on the base salary. So I don't know what the best way is to actually negotiate, knowing that it won't end in a disaster.
Yeah, I think you have to, it's important to know the situation. And I think there are some things that you can do. One of the questions you can ask that probably doesn't take you to disaster is, are there aspects of this offer that we might negotiate? And depending on the answer, if somebody comes back and says, no, it's completely final, then that's a good indication that you probably, then you have to make a decision. Can I live with this, or do I really want to ask the next question? That's right. So I think it's really the context, and my point is that all factors being equal, the tendency, I think, is that women are less likely to want to get into that sort of interaction than men. And so I think you do have to look at that context and be very wise about the situation.
Hi.
Oh, I think there's one here, and then we'll go here.
Okay, hi. Yeah, thank you. It's a very nice presentation. So I was wondering how to handle a scenario where, you are one of the board of directors. So what do you do when you want to mentor somebody who is going through an imposter syndrome? How to handle that?
Right. Well, I would start by giving them my 4 pieces of advice.
Okay, yeah, that's a good start.
Yeah. And then I think what I would do is I would spend some time trying to look for, I think somebody else suggested this, but some places where you might see them in action, so that you have more detail and more context for giving them advice. That way, it's going to bring more credibility and more weight to your ability to help them. And then I think the other thing would be to spend some time really focusing on when they have a win, thinking about what caused them to be able to accomplish that, and really encouraging them to use those skills that obviously have worked for them going forward. But for me, my personal board of directors, the way it's always worked is they seem to see things in me, qualities in me that I can't see myself, and having them validate how they view me, because I trust them and because I know they're telling me the truth, really helps me internalize those things.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi,
I'm here.
I'm Maya. You hear me? I think many women, including me at some point, thought that we are not the breadwinners of the family. And you think that kind of attitude adds to this imposter syndrome, because we think whatever we have now, the job or the challenge, everything is out of our interest to prove something as a hobby, as a challenge, more than we don't have a choice. Like many men think they go to job because they don't have a choice, but women
Right,
think they want to
right.
prove something out of it, and they like it. But does that add to this imposter syndrome of saying, like, what I already have is enough, that itself is more compared to others, and why ask for more kind of attitude, you think?
I think it very well could, because it sets us up in a different situation if we're not the primary breadwinner. I think it changes fundamentally our purpose in our employment. And so when you're in that situation where you're not the primary breadwinner, I think it's even more imperative that you be really clear about what your purpose is and what your personal goals are. And for me, it's always been, what am I trying to achieve? One of the questions, given where I am in my career now, is what's the legacy that I want to leave? I also have daughters, and so I'm very cognizant of what do I want my daughters to observe in how I conduct myself in my career that they might learn and benefit from. So I think it's getting back anchored to your purpose, and sometimes that purpose is about a lot more than compensation or money or being the breadwinner.
Maybe that's one more reason I think we don't negotiate well, because we're kind of okay with what we have. We think it's already
Yeah,
extra.
it could be. Thank you.
Hi, Diane. Do
Hi.
you think men would ever have the imposter syndrome if they work in a women-dominated organization?
Yes, I think men have imposter syndrome, even if they're not in a female, dominated organization. I just think that they deal with it differently. And this is a very personal comment, but I'll tell you that when my husband's confidence is waning, he puts on this like really macho front. And so if I didn't know him so well, I might think that, he was a blowhard. And so I think that perhaps we're taught in society to kind of manifest those things differently. And I'm sure men suffer from it probably as frequently as do women.
Hey,
Hi.
I had a question here.
Hi.
Hi. So the question is, generally we tend to judge ourselves against really high standards, or high standards of perfection in all fronts. So how do we tackle that? You want to be a perfect mom. You want to be a perfect at work. You want to be, utterly good looking at the same time.
Yes.
Right? So how do we do that?
I wish I knew. I wish I knew. I suffer from that whole, I want my house to be perfectly clean. I want my children to be perfect. I want my husband to be perfect. I want to do everything, at the best ability. I honestly don't know the answer, other than to say what I try to do for myself is every now and then just give myself a break. And the other thing I try to do is to ask for help. Here's a word of encouragement. I'm much older than most of you in this room, and that does get easier over time. Things fall away that are less important. They really do. And I'm hoping that I get all the way there. But as you get older, you start to moderate some of those really demanding, things. In fact, I have to tell you a funny story. The other day I was sitting in our family room and I was looking around and I was like, oh my gosh, this room looks like a disaster. And, 10 years ago I would have been sitting there thinking, I have got to get up and pick everything up. But I think your sense of what really is important changes over time. And so I would tell you, time's your friend. Time's your friend.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Hi, this is Soma from MasterCard. I have a question. Does it hurt the outcome of an interview if I end up asking about work-life flexibility when I'm very keen to get the job and yet want to come across as a very sincere employee? And that too when I'm a single woman, so I don't have those reasons, okay, that I need to take care of my child or something like that, or I'm married. I'm a single woman, but I have a very diversified personality. I am into a lot of things. So I want to give those things priority as well. Mm-hmm. So when I have flexibility to work from home, so then I'm able to perform better because I'm motivated.
Right.
So how to articulate that?
Okay, I'm going to answer that from my perspective. And I don't know how much different this is in India than in the US, but the first thing I would tell you is if you were interviewing with me, that would not damage your chances of getting a job. And here's why. I think people have to be honest about what it's going to take for them to be happy. And if having a balance in your life, if you have things that you are really dedicated to doing outside of work, if you don't have time and space to do those things, you're not going to be as good at your job anyway. And so I think that I would see that as you being honest and working with me as the interviewer and as the head of HR to figure out if this was indeed a good match for you. And so I would not mark you down for that. Now, there probably are people or companies that would. But I would encourage all of you to be really honest with yourself about what it's going to take, because I'm a firm believer that you bring your complete self to work. And if the other parts of yourself are not being nourished, then you won't do a good job anyway. Thank you. Welcome.
Any more questions?
I could just stay here with you all afternoon. It's fun. So much enthusiasm.
Thank you. Thanks, Diane. I enjoyed your session, and I'm sure the audience also enjoyed your session.
Thank you.
This is a token of appreciation.
Oh, thank you very much.